Start recording. Welcome, everyone. It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 910. Tonight, going to talk about my Pennsylvania main system. I got back on Sunday, and boy, what did I run into? And that is going to lead to some discussions for tonight. How to restore an old version of a file from OneDrive. Boy, was I panicking on Sunday. And then got to talk about the Ticketmaster Data Breach. And then we have a couple things and a big announcement of a new book from a longtime listener that I will plug at the end of the show and read her email. So let's start things out. I arrived, and I keep my system on all the time, both in Florida and here. Like, my system right now is on in Florida, just in case I got to remote in and do something. But I never really shut it off. I might remote in and once a month, once every couple months, make sure all the updates and software is running. So I was forced into a reboot because of a Fences install. And it the Fences install, something happened because it got delayed and it wouldn't finish. And so I killed it and then reboot it. Never to start for the next few hours. Boy, was I panicking because the test system behind me months ago died. So I'm like, I'm going to be living off my MacBook Pro to do work because at least that's fairly new. And I just, it's so easy to solve your problem or my client's problems. But when it's mine, I panic. And with it, it was just the little spinning. It wasn't even like a circle, like a bunch of lines, that spinning that happens where you still have the BIOS logo up. I was trying everything and did a repair that, like, after a couple hours, the repair wasn't doing anything. I finally I'm going to be patient and I'll just let it sit. And doing nothing for a half hour, I booted. And then there was some kind of an update, something happened later on in the night on Sunday, and I was like, I had a boot, and that's exactly what happened. So as long as I am patient, it'll come back. But now I know there's an issue here that I'm going to have to resolve. And by the way, MikeTechShow@gmail.com, I will take things that could be going wrong. I'm thinking driver issue because that's what's loading. I have to see where to turn on the diagnostics so I can see where it is hanging up. Now, when you have that kind of a hang up, I'm kind of thinking video driver, and it's been a long time since I've updated it. So I may try that. And of course, do restore points along the way. Make sure F8 is activated so I can go into a recovery mode. So there's a few things that I'm going to try. But this led to another problem. Now, I have OneDrive, and I use critical files, especially my accounts receivable spreadsheet for what clients owe me, and I maintain that in a spreadsheet. And it is backed up. I back up my OneDrive once a week. It does get backed up. And I use, SyncBack Pro to an external drive. So I know at worst I'd be a week off, but let me tell you, that's ugly being a week off because I've received checks or someone called me with a credit card or I received a Venmo payment. So I definitely need it updated. And I updated it Saturday night. I probably made the last edit on OneDrive. So I come here and I need to make a change because there were some checks that arrived on Saturday. So I was like, oh, let me knock them off my receivables. And I open up the spreadsheet from OneDrive, and it asks me that there's a newer version to, click to reopen before I can start editing. And I just obeyed because I've never had a problem before. And it brought up an Excel file that was from September of last year. And I'm like, no. And that makes sense because I went to Florida in the beginning of October. So I'm like, no. This isn't happening. And I don't want to go to, at worst, it would have been a Friday backup, so it wouldn't have been terrible. So the first link for tonight, and let me bring that up, and let's go display capture. So I'm remoted into my test system right now, and this is how to restore a previous version of a file stored in OneDrive. It is so easy. You scroll down, you go to the file that you want, and you right-click on that file. Then you select More and then Version History. And it comes up with a list of the files. I point it to the one that was Saturday, clicked Restore, done. And it was so easy. So here, where you File Explorer, go to the file, Version History. I love it. The first link for tonight, and this is, you don't even need a link. It's so easy to remember. But here it is, right from Microsoft. Restore a previous version of a file stored in OneDrive. So thank you, Microsoft, for that. I was so glad. I haven't had to do that. Or if I had, it's been a very long time. So that was very, very nice to be able to get that. And then it was after that I ran into a problem with the system. So, okay, I figured, all right, that's how it's going to be. All right. So now let me go over my Tuesday. We have scheduled from 11 to 1 because that's when the client goes to, everybody kind of goes to lunch. And this client, they needed the QuickBooks 2024 desktop. They have to upgrade. They only want to use desktop. There are some issues. Yes, QuickBooks is getting rid of desktop. And they were on 2021 Premiere. And with getting rid of QuickBooks desktop, to go to the cloud, a lot of resistance. There's a lot of people that don't like the version of that, but I have a different problem with this client. There are inventory problems. There are things that they do with inventory that are unavailable online. How can that be? How can QuickBooks, how can Intuit enforce going online when they don't even cover all the functionality that you have in the desktop version? So the client's going to have to make adjustments on how they do some of the accounting, and how they handle the inventory. I don't know all the details. I just know that's the showstopper from going to directly online. Now, their CPA, great guy. We go back a long way. We have a lot of same clients. He talks to Intuit since they have an annual subscription. And here's what forced it. They weren't able to send invoices that had the payment option that you can click. Stopped on Friday being available for 2021. So that's what forced this. So they already own 2024. So the CPA gave me the download link, the license, the product key. I'm set. I know exactly. I've done this a million times. They have a peer server that's Windows 10, and previously, the services we've installed QuickBooks 2015, 2018, and then 2021. So wait until you hear the problem with 2024. So I never uninstall the database manager on the server. I just install the new one. You reboot, you make sure that service started, you launch the database manager, and it'll tell you what engine is running. And it should say database version 34 because that's 2024. 31 is 2021. It kept saying 31. So I'm like, let's keep going. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's do the desktops. So I do a couple of the desktops. And the first thing I want to do is open their 2 database files because it's got to be updated to 2024. No problem. Done this a million times. It updated clean. And by the way, something I did, you don't ever do an update of a QuickBooks database file that you did not personally back up. Don't rely on the process. I manually copied those 2 databases in a directory that was going to be untouched. As a matter of fact, it was an external drive that I used for Shadow Protect. So now I have the copy, and that's when I perform the updates. Updates worked perfectly. So now I go to their main user. They only have a 3-user license. He logs in. We try to go to multi-user mode. And this is where the problem is. We get an error going to multi-user mode because now that's the problem with the QuickBooks Database Manager on the peer server. And I'm going into this detail because if you don't know it, this is definitely going to help you. The Database Manager is like the traffic cop for the databases that are hosted on that particular system. Now, I was like, okay, I tell everybody, QuickBooks is off limits right now. I got to call into it. So I call the CPA and I get all the account information, their customer number, what's the best number to call. And that was an issue because I left a voicemail. At least I kept my queue in line because, you are an hour and 10 minutes in the queue. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So let me at least make sure they have my cell phone number and they can call me back. And it was about an hour and a half. They give me a call back. I get someone very good to work with. And I remote in to the peer server. They remote in. I get them remoted in. And the advice that they're getting, and I tried a repair of the database engine for 2024, no joy. Did a full remove and install, no joy. So they took that and escalated it because we tried other things and it came back that to use Database Manager 2024, you must remove all of the older versions. Now, and that's why I'm bringing this up, I already know that I have a client that has multiple older versions, and those services are running because they have all of the versions of QuickBooks because they're a CPA firm where they have clients that are using those older versions, so they must have that older version. They will not be able to use, if they need 2024, they will not be able to use the older versions in multi-user mode. That's what it comes down to. This is an issue. And they're escalating that. I don't know how they're going to have a fix or what they're going to do, but at least I'm armed, and at least now you're armed, that when you go to the server or the peer server, you got to uninstall all the other QB database versions when you go into all those different versions of QuickBooks. Because when I install it, I install on the server, only the files will be here. I don't need the program. And then that automatically installs QuickBooks Database Manager, which is the lifeblood for a multi-user, because you set the path where the QuickBooks files are hosted. It makes sure that all the proper ports are opened in the firewall. Then they make sure that, let's see. Dexter. Let me, in the chat. They are consolidating to 1D desktop product Enterprise. Did you see the price of Enterprise? Have to an immediate update to get latest DBM. QB is the worst MU program on earth. Yes, I concur, sir. Intuit and Microsoft, that's what keeps us employed. So at least now I know what I'm dealing with and how to deal with this. And what I would like to once we, by the way, I uninstalled all of that, all the versions, reinstalled 2024. It worked like immediately. It worked. So luckily this client doesn't need the older versions. So just if you run into the same problem, now you know the solution. So wanted to cover that. I have a question from a listener. No. Take it back. I have a question from a client that said, Mike, give my name. And I'm like, okay, here's the question. And since that came right before the show, I have not had a chance to research this. Can you share a file from Microsoft SharePoint that when you share it with the recipient, they do not need a Microsoft account? Let me say that again. Want to share a file from SharePoint to an external person, an email that they do not have a Microsoft account. Can you do that? Or is there some kind of trick or an option? And I'm throwing that out there. Please email me. Let me know so I can. I'm going to test this tomorrow and check it out. So anyway, and this is Chris, who's an agent from Remax. So let me know. Ticketmaster. Received the email from Malwarebytes, and that's going to be the next link for the show notes. And let me display this. So it's bad enough that we have to worry about data breaches, but really, Ticketmaster, you know how many concerts I have coming up? You know I go to a ton of concerts. I have Smashing Pumpkins and Green Day coming in August. In September, I have Pearl Jam. And then also in September, towards the end, Jeff Lynne's ELO. I can't wait for that. So here's what they say. Live Nation, in a filing with the SEC on May 20th, identified unauthorized activity within a third-party cloud database environment containing company data from Ticketmaster, LLC, subsidiary, and launched an investigation. Well, they found this on the dark web, and this is the post. This is more cool than anything else. It was posted 560 million customers, full details, name, address, email, phone, ticket sales, event information, order details, credit card details, customer, last four of card, expiration date, customer fraud details, and much more. They're selling it for $500,000 on the dark web. There you go. So this is Live Nation, Ticketmaster. So you're protecting yourself, first, these are very, very obvious. Ignore everything that you could be receiving in any kind of email to warn you about this. Go directly to your Ticketmaster accounts and your Live Nation account and reset your passwords. Enable two-factor authentication immediately. That's the first thing everybody should do. Then the other things are, hey, to prevent identity theft, make sure you freeze your credit with the credit card bureaus, and you know the drill. So that's how we're armed for these things. But a lot of people probably don't have two-factor authentication enabled for Ticketmaster. You don't think about that. So I wanted to warn everybody about that. Just something else, Let me undo the display. And by the way, why am I wearing my Phillies cap? I have lots of multiple hats. Real quick, because the Phillies are playing the Mets in London this weekend. And as a matter of fact, in the pre-show, I was playing the Clash London Calling, and that's why I'm wearing the Phillies cap, in a tribute to that. So now, a couple things before we get to email and a YouTube question from Zoom. I have a client that has the free version of Zoom, and the person that sent them the link is the free version, so they have up to 45 minutes. But here's the thing, the Zoom link, and they took a picture of it and sent it to me. They were both afraid to start the Zoom meeting because you know how you have a long set of characters in the meeting? And I think it's like after the word pass, so it's like an automatically generated, very long password that only the participants would receive. It had the F word clearly spelled out with a capital F within the string of characters. I'm like, it looks legit. It was legit. And that means, and how can that be, a company as big as Zoom, how can they allow those characters to be generated with no filter? I'm thinking of how many other words or so that just kind of, but I guess maybe there's someone there thinking, what are the odds, of that happening? 1,000,000 to 1? I don't know. But anyway, it was very clear, and I applaud my client. I mean, who looks at that? But it stood out. And she was like ready to click, and she's like, wait a second here. And then she called the other person that they were going to connect, and she said, take a look at that link. And they both kind of shied away. I said, create a new meeting and then double check. And they did, and it didn't have the word, but just something odd, obscure that I had to share. Okay. YouTube question from Joe. Do you put your C drive just for system and do another drive D for programs? That's how we did it in a place I worked at. And I've missed a couple of your shows. Well, it depends on the size of the drive. Now, in the old days, with servers and the partition, and in particular like NT351 and NT4, your C drive would get consumed with so much junk that you had to always be on top of to clean it up, from log files and different mess that Windows would store there. I always would have a partition for sometimes even a physical drive that, that was the C drive, and that was just the operating system. The bigger drives, which were, I usually had I'll go through server config, and then I'm going to talk about workstation, and then I'm going to talk about today, Joe. So the old days, I would have mirrored operating system drive. So 2 drives mirrored. Then I would have RAID 5 for the data and programs. And we would always install the programs to D colon. So program files were D. Today, the drives are so big, so inexpensive. I have a 4 terabyte drive as C down in Florida. In here, I only have a terabyte, so I don't do as much on C. I let the programs and the operating system, that's it. Programs love by default to be installed on C, and I don't want to change the drive redirection. So I don't mind all of the programs being installed on the C drive. Then I have bigger drives, the rest of the alphabet, for the data. Sometimes maybe I might put certain programs that execute from the same directory, but most of the time it's just the data. My software is installed on C. I'd love to hear your feedback on this, but Joe, with today's systems and today's size, especially if you're buying a new system, it's going to be an NVMe drive. Get as large as you can. The prices are great. You should have a 2 terabyte or 4 terabyte drive, so you have no worries of, well, you should have no worries of running out of space, depending what you do. When you're a podcaster like me and you're a pack rat and save all those files, guess what? You can run out of space. As a matter of fact, my C drive at 4 terabytes is starting to fill up because I have my podcast files on there, so I do have to do some cleaning up. So, all right. Now let me get to some emails, and give me a second here. Okay. So this is from Nancy, who's a longtime listener, and she has a book coming out on July 1st. So, long-time listener here, and I wanted to let you know about my book going live on Amazon on July 1st. The title is Your Data, Your Devices, and You. Easy-to-follow instructions to reduce your risk of data loss, device infection, and identity theft. Boy, that's a mouthful for the title, but very accurate. Tells you exactly what it's going to cover. She continues, it's not particularly written for your audience, but it's written for the friends and families of your audience, the clients, the ones that they're always having to help clean up after. I have a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, MCSE, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, and CISSP. Nancy, where were you when I needed a senior network engineer in the corporate world? All right. I've tried to price it so that it's accessible for just about everyone and not so cheap that people doubt the quality of the content. The Kindle version will be $9.99, and that's what's going to be available first on July 1st. And I'm going to have a link to this. And the paperback will be $22.99 US dollars. Hey, that's not that expensive. That's a great price. I cover the most common things that can happen to us, hardware failure, and how to recognize it, the different kinds of malware, phishing, etc., protecting the tools we use, backups, updates, awareness, and how to recover from bad things, restoring from backup, a list of who to contact if you think your identity has been stolen, with a bonus section of additional terms and definitions and several methods to make a strong password you can remember without writing it down. I wrote it for people who don't know tons about tech, with extensive descriptions and instructions. I'm not kidding about easy to follow. I had a few people read it who don't know much about tech, and they were able to understand and follow all the instructions in the book. Good for you for doing that. That is exactly how the audience you're writing for is who you need to do those first reads. Here's the Amazon link for the Kindle version. I'm still learning about the marketing stuff, and when I figure it out, how to offer a coupon or discount code, I'll get one ready for your audience. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. This was something I had been trying to do for a while, and I think that the instructions are evergreen. Thanks for your podcast. I get something valuable from every episode. This is Nancy Jones. Nancy, she asked, shameless plug for my book. If you would prefer not, are you kidding me? This is perfect. This is perfect. And you nailed it for all the listeners. Everybody who's listening to this, you have someone who needs this. You do. You definitely do. Whether it's family, friends, there's someone, and that's perfect. So what I want to do is get to my display screen, and I want to bring up Nancy's book, and that's from Amazon. And this link to the Kindle will be in the show notes, and you can buy the Kindle version. When the paperback version is available, I'll let you know, and I'll post that link up. And of course, any discount codes or coupons, definitely, check it out. And Nancy, good luck. I want to hear from you, and hopefully, your sales will be booming, and glad to support it. All right. That is it for tonight's show. I want to thank everybody for downloading and subscribing. Don't forget the best way to support the show. There's a donations button at MikeNation.net. That's where all the information is for all the shows and all of the show notes. All the links that I talked about, they will be in the show notes for tonight. That's it. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. And I'll see everybody back here next Thursday. Same time, same channel. Bye-bye.